Yeah, I wanted to shoot a video on a tutorial about how I set up my barbarian and kind of go into the strategy that I use and kind of how I pick through the equipment. The game really hasn't changed since Diablo 2. It really hasn't. Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo 4 for the barbarian are almost exactly alike. The only thing that they did different with Diablo 4, in my opinion, was added just a few skills that weren't there before. All your basic skills can go all the way back to Diablo 2. And I'll even show you that in this video. You know, if they haven't changed, I'll even prove that to you. I'll bring up Diablo 2 Resurrected. They're remastered. And I will show you, that they're exactly the same. They even work the same. So it wasn't hard for me to figure out the build. I knew the two main skills that I wanted to use. Well, three. The one that they added was blood damage, bleeding out damage. That wasn't in Diablo 3 or Diablo 2, but the two that I do use that are in here are Rend and Iron Skin. Iron Skin, I don't go to one extreme or the other. I do 50% defense, 50% DPS. That way I can do both. I'm not a glass cannon, and I can tank damage when I need to. A lot of guys argue that this isn't the way to go, because if you don't specialize in one, well, you're going to be weak all the way around. No, not if you spend enough time on your character and get good enough gear. Let me kind of show you that. I may not take out crowds like the glass cannons do, but I can sure as hell tank for a lot longer than they can. There's times that I do boss fights on the 4th difficulty, and I use 2 potions in the whole fight. I don't even come close to using the 9 that I've got. The only instances where I cycle through them fast is your Hell Tides, because you're just getting bombarded nonstop. But even then, it's not uncommon for me to earn 300, 450 in a session, in a 45-minute session. Usually where they screw me is at the end of the Hell Tide, when you're just getting ready to get that final 300 chest. They will pile a shitload of people at that final chest, and they'll kill me every time. It never fails. It's like they're permanently, nerfing you. But here, I'll show you Diablo 2 Remastered and Diablo 4, and show you that skill set has always worked for the barbarian. It's always the way to go. You always go 50-50. You go with your defense, and you go with Thorn. You go with Rend, you go with Iron Skin, and then you buff the hell out of your damage reduction. So, and I'll show you how I did that with this character. I just hit level 100 not too long ago, but I've been on the 4th difficulty for a while. I'm going to be trying for the 5th difficulty to unlock here soon. So here, let's go into the game. And I'll prove to you that nothing has changed for the barbarian. Absolutely nothing. They've added a little bit, and that's about it. So with skill and the kind of items I look for, you want to keep that 50-50 build in mind. You don't want to go too much one way. So like when you go into my actual character, you'll notice a theme here. You've got healing received, buff to armor, rupture, which is my bleed damage. That's what I specialized in for this character, was Rend and blood damage. So you have your healing buff, you have your total armor buff, and rupture. You get 4 extra ranks with this one piece alone. And then your damage reduction, which I already brought up before, and it specializes on here, if you look, reduction for each nearby bleeding enemy up to 10% maximum. And what do I specialize in? Bleeding and rupture. So that's perfect. Then you buff your maximum health for your tanking ability. You go down to the next one. This is one of the best you can get, at least so far that I've found. This is one of your rare, unique legendaries. And this one does your critical strike for damage, 21% overall physical damage, 1300 thorn. Once again, you want to be doing your thorn damage. 20% damage reduction from bleeding enemies. I do bleeding attacks. And then it does your lucky hit. And then I've got 2 stones in there that do a grand total of 8% for life for your tank. Go down to the next one. I don't do whirlwind, so that doesn't do me a bit of good. I don't have 1 point on it. It's a waste of time in Diablo 4. It was very powerful in Diablo 3. Not so much in this one. But your critical strike, your lucky hit chance, and your damage has a buff in here. And then you have this one. It gives you a huge bump in your fire resistance for your tank ability, damage reduction from distant enemies, and your dodge chance. And then, of course, down at the bottom in the imprinted, when damaging your elite enemy, it gives you a barrier shield, which also is kind of like Iron Skin. Iron Skin comes up as a shield as well. So you're doubling up in shields. And then you go to this one, and you have your lightning resistance, shadow resistance, damage reduction while injured, which you're always going to be injured. And then direct damage against bleeding enemies, once again, has up to a 20% chance to stun them for 2 seconds. So now you're freezing them in place. You have, on this one, your core damage is buffed. 78 to all stats, 60% damage to slowed enemies, 72% damage to injured enemies, and then you're buffed to your core skill by 10 to 30%. Then in that I added 20% basic skill damage and 8% damage over time. Then you go to my 2 one-handeds. Now the way I work this is I build up my fury with my 2 one-handeds because they're lightning fast. Literally lightning fast. You can hit like once a second, if not more. You're just basically double-handing it at that point. I don't carry a shield. So then you work up your fury with this one. And then for your massive rupture and bleeding attack, you use this one. You switch to your one-handed. So my left click would be my fast attacks, and then my right click would be my power attack with the two-handed. It's a lot slower, but when the bleed damage hits, you don't have to hit fast. I only have to hit them. I can hit them about 4 times before I run out of fury if I run it all the way up. And in those 4 hits, if you take a look here on my skills, so your Iron Skin is here, and your Rupture, your power attack is here. But if you look here, Flay, which is my speed attack that builds up my fury, it does bleeding damage and regular damage. But then when you go over to the power attack, it does a massive amount of bleeding damage and regular damage. And then, since I use Rend, you get a 12% increase to damage to vulnerable enemies. So you have speed attacks mixed with your power attacks, and you just clear crowds with bleeding damage. I can hit somebody 4 times with my power attack with this two-handed and bleed them out halfway. I can just run away, and they bleed out halfway. I only have to do it twice to take out the average person. And on bosses, you rack up your bleed damage and just let them bleed out. These, 28% to all elements. Your overpowered damage is 72%. Brawling, 39%. Damage reduction, 19%. And I like the movement speed boost. This one is, let's see here. The resistance to elements was the main reason why I took it. The huge buff to life. You know, once again, you have to have your tanking ability and your critical strike and lucky damage. This one, once again, your resistances, resource generation buff so that you build up fury faster, your buff to your maximum fury, and your attack speed, so you're hitting even faster. Now, when you go into skills, right now, these cards are almost full. This one's completely full. This one only has, let's see, it's not very many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 more in it. 8, no, 9. 9 in it's full, and then I can start another card. I've leveled up the one here that does the buff here, and the one here that does the buff here. They are literally at 18 and 15. Now, that's going to up you big time. Your skill tree, if you start out at the top, you'll notice a theme here. Now, if you try to specialize in 2 or 3 different attacks, you're going to be weak at all 3. You've got to go one direction. If you want to go a different way with another character, that's fine. But if you don't stick with a specialized for your attack and a specialized for defense, and you only pick one for each, you're going to spread around your points, you're going to be too thin, and you're going to be squishy. You're not going to be able to tank while you're doing your DPS. So I started with Flay, bleeding damage. You go down to here, then if you fall over to here, Rend, bleeding damage, Specialize. Then you follow down, and you have maximum life for your tanking. You have damage reduction for your tanking from elites. You go down to here, Iron Skin, completely maxed out. Enhanced Iron Skin, completely and then you go all the way to the end. So there's your defense. You go over to here. This is your movement speed. Then you go over to here, and you have your Rupture, Bleed, completely maxed out. You have here, bleeding effects. Cut to the bone, bleeding effects. You go down to here, thick skin, your defense. Defensive stance, your defense. You go down to here, you've got attack speed is increased by 9% while using one-handed weapons, which that's what I use dual-handed to build up my fury. For my power attacks with the two-handed, you have Tempered Fury. You have Furious Impulse. You have Invigorating Fury. So you're constantly getting those buffs to your fury. So all you have to do is hit for about 5 seconds with those dual-handed with as fast as they swing, and you're at max fury again. Then you have here where you have Gushing Wounds. Gushing Wounds is massive. You'd be surprised how fast you can make a boss bleed out. And you can take out his henchmen in no time. So that was what I specialized in, and then my defense, Iron Skin and resistances and damage reduction. Expertise are all maxed out. I've never used two-handed mace. And to tell you how much I play, I think I've got like almost 300 hours in. I only carry some of my potions with me. I have a massive amount. What I'm trying to figure out, and I haven't Googled yet, is how high you can go with stones. I'm pretty sure I have them as high as you can go. because when I go to the jeweler, it won't let me go any higher. Maybe they'll let me go higher in the 5th difficulty. But if you take a look at my chest, I've got way too many. So like if you go into here, these are all the extracted legendary abilities. And then you have all the summoning for the unique bosses. I got rid of all my sigils. I only keep anything over 45 now. You have complete stacks of 50, and now I'm working on the second stacks. I have 71 of the royal skulls, and then if you look at the potions, I have a ton. I kept these for backup because I wasn't sure if I wanted to get rid of them. They have better stats, but if you'll notice, in the unique legendary, you have better legendary, abilities. Even if you're losing a little bit in stat, it's worth it. And if you look at the overall value, let's go to these gloves. Technically, I'd go up 18 in armor, but if you look at the overall value, they're worth 39,000. You go to these, and they're worth 119 grand. I've been slowly replacing everything out. I've got this one, and these two, and these two. The swords, I took kind of a hit. I mean, I lost 200 and 261 there for damage. But if you look at the abilities, it's worth it. Because this, your lucky hit and fear and slow, that isn't on that other weapon. So even if you got to take a dip in damage, I think it's worth it. What I have noticed about these unique legendaries is that no matter what difficulty you're in, they're always a lower item power than your other legendaries. Like if you compare, this one's 890, this one's 899. You look at these are 916 and 925. You look at your chest plate here at 912 before modification, and you look at this one, well, that one is better. But like the gloves, that one was 915. This one's only an 879. You do go down a little bit in the item power, but what you're getting for that unique, legendary is definitely worth the sacrifice. I want to get I just found this one last night. I went up 20 points in item power. This gave me a lot more of a buff for overpower damage and damage reduction and resistance. I think I went up 9% on my resistances. And if you look at the setup for Diablo 4, when you get up to the 4th difficulty, I think you get a negative 40 or negative 45% to all your resistances. So you start out way in the red. And if you look at my stats and materials, I'm sitting at 70, 70, 24, 59, and 70, which is not bad considering I was at negative 40, negative 45 when I started. I was at 76 million 2 weeks ago, and I'm already up to 343. And if you look at the materials, I mean, yeah, I don't need materials. I play entirely too much. Then when you go to the jeweler, I've unlocked a crap load of socketing ability. It's like when you go into socket, I've literally got 12 of them I can use if I find rares that, or legendaries that don't have sockets. I'm pretty much covered for a while. I was out there for a while, about 2 weeks ago, and I killed enough major bosses that, I racked it back up. But, let's see here. So, let me double check these and make sure these aren't any good to keep. I didn't check these yet. And I'll go into gameplay and kind of show you how it works, how my setup works. So when you actually go into gameplay, I'll just show you a little bit. I'll go outside of town. I won't actually do a mission. I'll show you how I quickly get that fury up, and then I hit him with 4 power bleed attacks, and then I start wailing on him to get my fury back up. And you just go through that cycle. And if it gets out of hand and you're taking too much damage and you don't want to use potions, every, I believe, 60 seconds or 30 seconds, you can activate the Iron Skin, which buffs you like 15,000 damage. And usually, as long as you don't take too much damage, you don't have to use potions. If I can run across anybody. Here, watch. You get that fury up. And then you have the bleed. That's why it turns a lighter red. That's how far they're going to bleed down to. So when that lighter red hits the bottom, you go on to your next. And that is how you clear a crowd. That bleed damage, once you start spreading that around, it doesn't matter if they run away, they're gonna die. And like I said, this is the 4th difficulty. I can't wait to start the 5th, because I'm not really finding better weaponry. I'm pretty much maxed out. I've been trying to get more Paragon points. That'll definitely help me out if I finish up that sheet. But just to show you how similar Blizzard has made this to the past games, as soon as I finish this altercation, I'll go to Diablo 2, which literally came out in, I believe, 1998, 1999. And back then, you had to have a massive computer to run it. I mean, that was a huge game back in the day. But here, I'll show you that they haven't changed anything. So, like, you go out to here, and now you go to here. And I'm going to prove to you that this hasn't changed. And yeah, I'm a little OP on here. There aren't very many people that are as high up as I am. I think the record is 107. There's no paragons, and there's no limit to how high you can go. And I believe I'm close to 80th level. And if you've never seen the resurrected version, oh, it's HD, baby. And I have videos on this of massive fights on the 3rd difficulty. I'm literally on the hardest difficulty now. That is my new character. That's my level 80. I rage quit. I gotta pick up my body here. And I'll show you the skills. So, you have As you can tell, yeah, you could say that I've been playing a while. This is some of the best gear in the game. You're not going to find anything better. The list is a mile long on the abilities. These are all buffed. But anyway, if you go into skills, the skill trees are almost exactly the same. You have war cries, which I don't use. Combat masteries, I'm maxed out for sword. You have increased stamina. You have increased speed. Iron Skin is maxed out. And natural resistance is maxed out. Combat skills. You have to follow the tree down just like Diablo 4. You have double swing. And then you have frenzy. And if you read that, the more you hit, the faster you hit, and the more damage you do. And it's almost like a berserk. And then for like getaway, the more hits you do on the monsters, if you run away, the faster your movement speed is. I mean, it gets crazy fast. 171% run and walk speed. And then your attack speed can buff up to 42%. But yeah, Frenzy, that's in Diablo 4. Double Throw isn't. Double Swing is. I haven't checked Bash. I don't think that is. Berserk is. You have Leap. I believe that's in Diablo 4. Leap Attack. Whirlwind. That was literally back in 1998 when that came out. Combat masteries are pretty much set up the same way. You specialize. You just put points where on what weapons you want to be able to use and specialize in. And, buffs to your natural resistances. This works the same way as Diablo 4. Normal difficulty, you start at 0% for your resistances. The next difficulty, Nightmare, it's like negative 20%. And Hell is like negative 60 or something. This is logged in. Let me see. This is logged in on. I'm trying to remember the buttons. I haven't played in like over a year. So like you have. Even though I'm at like negative 40 to 60%, I'm maxed out on all my resistances. And if you actually look at damage, yeah, it's crazy. Now, so all this was carried over to Diablo 3, Diablo 4. They only changed a little bit. They added different classes like the Rogue. But like even back when this game came out, if you go back to the main menu and you look at the characters that were available, watch this. So you have the Amazon, you have the Assassin, you have the Necromancer, you have the Barbarian, you have the Paladin, you have the Sorceress, and you have the Druid. Sound familiar? So when I say that, all Diablo 4 is a newer version of Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, yeah, that's all it is. It's better graphics, better gameplay. If you guys want to know like exact items to look for the best buffs for whatever skill you want to specialize in, shoot me a message, and I can literally tell you what skills are going to suit what you're looking to do the best. I mean, I don't specialize in anything but the Barbarian because that's the only character I've ever played, to be perfectly honest with you. I've never, ever played anything other than the Barbarian from Diablo 1 all the way up to Diablo 4. I'm not interested. They just suck. They suck. There is no character that can do DPS and tanking like the barbarian. I don't care how you build them up. If you'd like to prove me wrong, I'd like to hear from you. Shoot me a comment. Maybe you can prove me wrong. But if you ever want to watch any like crazy gameplay on the Diablo 2 Resurrected to see how massive that map is, the lands altogether are about the size of Diablo 4. And keep in mind, this was for PC in 1998. Yeah, you had to have a monster PC to run it. But yeah, let me know what you thought of the tutorial for the barbarian and the advice, and get back to me about your characters. Maybe you could kind of show me your setups, or let me know about them. Thanks for your time, man, and I really appreciate you guys subscribing and the views. It means a lot. You guys take it easy.